What's up, guys? Welcome into another episode of the Wolverine Live Recruiting Show. I'm here with my co-host, Zach Libby, who is in Channel Orange right now for some reason. But yeah, why are you scrambling around, Zach? You look nervous.
No, I'm good. I mean, it's a good day, right? Michigan's 12
It is a good day. It's been a busy day because Michigan hosted a bazillion recruits for the game. We're going to talk about five-star visitors Bryce Underwood and DJ Pickett. We're going to talk about some other storylines. We are going to talk about Gatlin Bear. A lot of fun on tonight's show. But before we do that, I want to say that this show is sponsored by Leonard Financial Solutions. Leonard Financial Solutions founder Jonathan Leonard wants to listen to you to get to know your story and how he can best help you. People often hesitate to contact a financial advisor because they think they have to know what they want first. Leonard Financial Solutions founder Jonathan Leonard will start with you at square one, getting to know you and your unique situation. You don't want to outlive your retirement money. You don't want to make risky investments. You don't want your loved ones to experience financial insecurity. Leonard Financial Solutions wants to alleviate your fears by providing you with options for life insurance, income protection, retirement income, safe annuities, and Medicare. They take the time to explain the pros and cons of each product and will not rush you through the decision-making process, giving you the time you need to commit to a plan. When's the best time to get with a financial advisor? It's now. Whether you are just starting out, hoping to retire in the next 5 years, or already retired, Leonard Financial Solutions wants to help you make smart decisions about your money. Get the expert financial advice without the high-pressure sales pitch. Reach out today to get started. Get a free consultation at www.leonardfs.com or call 856-444-LIFE. Again, that's www.leonardfs.com or call 856-444-LIFE. So again, thank you to our sponsor, Leonard Financial Solutions. All right, let's get to the good stuff. And I'm not talking about Michigan recruiting. I'm talking about our off-topic question of the day, Zach. Because Livy thinks hot dogs are sandwiches.
Not like a regular hot dog, but like a Chicago dog is definitely a sandwich.
What's the difference?
Like ketchup and mustard isn't a sandwich. But if you put like pickles, peppers, relish, what else is in a Chicago dog? Red pepper,
Well,
onion,
no, it's the peppers, it's onion, it's pickle, it's mustard,
pickle. Yeah,
and ketchup.
there's a lot of
And then
vegetables.
the poppy seed bun's different than the regular bun.
Yeah, like that can be considered a sandwich. But if you just give me mustard and ketchup, that's not a sandwich. That's just
So you're saying it's technical. It depends on what kind of hot. So is a bratwurst a sandwich?
Depends on the toppings. Then it's just a bratwurst.
So the great hot dog sandwich debate solely depends on the toppings.
Yeah, it's a bunch of gray area. There's no it's not black and white. Like there's not a true answer.
What about a chili cheese coney?
No.
Not a sandwich, just a hot dog.
It's just more meat on a hot dog. It's not a sandwich.
Okay, I will say a hot dog is definitely not a sandwich. It's its own separate entity. However, I did go to Switzerland a couple of years ago, and there a hot dog is a sandwich. I was just at some river thing with my wife, and I was like, all right, let me just get something quick from this food vendor here. And they had very limited options. So it's not like, oh, EJ's not, world class and not getting real Swiss food. It's like, that's all they had at this food stand was a hot dog. It was like an American food stand. And they gave me a hot dog, like a giant hot dog, like a full-on foot-long coney in sandwich bread. Like they made that a sandwich and we're like, here you go. Like a French roll with a hot dog in it. It was so weird. It wasn't they just poured that.
It wasn't two pieces of white bread with a hot dog on it.
No, not two pieces of white bread. Though if you grew up like me, you fold the little one piece of white bread and put the little dog in there and then put some ketchup and mustard. But anyway, we don't want to talk too much like that. Talk about too much about dogs. We want to talk about Michigan recruiting. I'm stumbling over my words because I'm still trying to decipher Zach's topping codes on hot dogs. But let's talk about Michigan recruiting. Let's talk about the 5 stars. Let's go ahead and talk about Bryce Underwood first. Obviously, Michigan already has a quarterback commit in Carter Smith, who I had a chance to go out and see on Friday night. And Carter is a really special athlete. The dude rushed for more than 130 yards. But Michigan has continued to recruit Bryce Underwood. He's continued to express some interest. He was on campus going into the visit. We felt like LSU had the lead for Underwood coming out of the visit and exchanging messages with Underwood and talking to program sources. How are you feeling about Underwood, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, Bryce issued his remarks to the Wolverine, which you can find on our website. But yeah, amazing atmosphere, he said. Obviously, a lot of love was shown to him throughout his time on campus on Saturday. And I mean, like, good on the team, right? Like, good on them for bringing him in at this late. Obviously, he hasn't been on campus before Ohio State game since late July when he spent 2 days for the annual barbecue at the Big House, and then he didn't go on a game day visit before then. So there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not Michigan was able to get him in before the dead period, and they did. But yeah, they just had to get him on campus to find any momentum in a race against LSU, who has a huge lead on the On3 recruiting prediction machine. But it kind of shows two things for me about this visit. Obviously, like you mentioned, Michigan isn't waving the white flag for him, number one player in the 2025 recruiting class by On3, despite having Carter Smith locked in earlier this month. But then it also shows that he still has an interest in Michigan, right, for Underwood. He could have easily said no. He could have said, I'm busy. Obviously there was Division I state finals at Ford Field the day before. So he could have said he had to prepare. We know how big of a team guy he is, but he got there at 8 a.m. around that time, got to hang out with do the pregame festivities that they do at the Jun Family Champion Center by the Big House, got to see the first half, and then he left at halftime. So, an opportunity to see JJ McCarthy in person, get to see that balanced offense, get to see, the arguably the best atmosphere in college football when Ohio State comes to Ann Arbor. So, Michigan, it just feels like Michigan isn't completely written off. But like most people and yourself, I still think it's LSU. There's just so much in play for LSU, not including Jane Daniels and his Heisman Trophy race. All the weapons in 2025 that LSU has a good lead on, a couple of 5 stars down in Texas in that area. Underwood has always had a wandering eye for the SEC. And of course, there's always NIL factors. So, I think the overall stance is, good on them for Michigan to keep, to get him in for the biggest game of the year. But there's still a lot against them to keep him home.
Yeah, I mean, really quick, my thoughts just to kind of sum it up. I'm kind of on board with Zach. I thought, Michigan did a great job of just getting him to campus, getting around Belleville's playoff schedule since he played on Sunday night, and the team still had practice and stuff on Saturday. So working around that schedule, getting him in super early. I think Bryce was on campus like bright and early. It was like 7 a.m. or something like that. So he was able to go through some extra things and meet with Kirk Campbell and things of that nature. So, I think Michigan's hanging around, finding a way to hang around. But like Zach said, I think the odds are still stacked against them. I think Michigan knows that as well. They know they don't play the same game as a lot of schools when it comes to NIL. And like we've mentioned before, it's not like LSU is a Miami or a Texas A&M, but I do think they're willing to dip into waters that Michigan's not, especially with Michigan going through the investigation and everything like that right now. You definitely don't want to do something to piss off the NCAA even more and create another issue for yourself. So, right now I'm still leaning LSU. I think where Michigan can really potentially turn a corner with Bryce Underwood is if they get him back in for before the dead period. So the dead period starts Sunday before signing day. And I know signing day is on the 20th. So what would that be? The 17th. So between now and the 17th, if they can just get Bryce, now that his season is over, to make the very short drive to campus and have him actually meet with Jim Harbaugh, have his parents meet with Jim Harbaugh, talk to Sharon Moore and Kirk Campbell, and just, let Michigan do whatever it needs to do to potentially get this done, whether it's talking to him about the NIL opportunities at Michigan, whether it's getting him a face-to-face meeting with JJ, whether it's answering questions about Harbaugh's future, about Sharon's future, anything they need to answer, anything they need to hear, you need to show them on a more personalized visit. It's great to get him in the big house and to have him around all these recruits and to have him in that type of atmosphere. But I think in order for Michigan to really turn the corner and potentially take the lead from LSU late, as he's set to make his decision in January, they have to get him back on campus for a really, really, like I said, personalized visit where it's like a Wednesday and he's the only guy there, right? So that's kind of my thoughts on it. Now, there is a lot of hot dog debate. I mean, I guess we'll get to some of that after we talk about another 5-star. DJ Pickett, 5-star defensive back out of Zephyr Hills. Had a great conversation with DJ's dad, Damien, and I posted that interview on the Wolverine just about an hour before the show started. So if you're not a subscriber to thewolverine.com, you can find the interview with his dad there. A lot of great stuff coming from Damien Pickett. But DJ himself, man, he's always been high on Michigan. This was like his 6th, 7th time on campus, something like that. He's really familiar with the university. His mom attended Michigan. His grandmother still lives in the Detroit metro. He's good friends with Chris Ewald. They spent some time together on Saturday. Pickett actually got there Friday night, and he stayed all the way late until Sunday. Sunday, and she told me that DJ and his dad weren't leaving until like 10 p.m. So they were there all day Sunday. Unlike most recruits, DJ did get a chance to meet with Jim Harbaugh, as did his father. And they had great conversation. And, Sunday was even more of just show the school. It wasn't just meeting with Harbaugh. They also had a chance to meet with academic advisors, do a campus tour and all that stuff. And the thing that was different about this visit, like I said, DJ's mom attended Michigan, so she's been on all the visits with DJ. This was his dad's first time on campus. So I think, DJ's bought into Michigan. His mom, Tammy, has bought into Michigan. And I think now Damien has started to buy into Michigan as well. Now that he's actually seen it, now that he's met with Harbaugh. And, Steve Klinkscale's doing a fantastic job in this recruitment, about as good of a job as you can do. I mean, yeah, I really encourage you guys, if you're not subscribed to the Wolverine, to subscribe just to see what Damien Pickett had to say about Steve Klinkscale. Like, a lot of great comments on him. So right now I think it's, Michigan, Alabama, Georgia, with some others involved there, like Miami and Florida State and Texas. Oregon is another one for sure that's also in there. So, a lot of competition, a lot of schools with NIL, but I think DJ is kind of just a different type of kid, man. Like, I really see him fitting in at Michigan. I don't think NIL will be as big of a factor, even though he is the number one safety in the country and a top 10 prospect nationally. I think that family has it figured out. Like, I've really enjoyed my conversations with Tammy. I really enjoyed my conversation with Damien, and then DJ's a really, shy, great kid that's just about his business. So I feel like Michigan's in a great spot. If the controversy stuff wasn't going on and there was uncertainty around the program, like, I would seriously consider putting in a prediction for Michigan, but we'll see. DJ will be back on campus, by the way. His dad just told me they will be back on campus in January. So a lot of positive vibes for Michigan and DJ Pickett. Now, we do have some comments. Remember, guys, if you want a question answered on tonight's show, tonight is the super chat show. So hit that little donate button, and that money goes directly to our travel budget, and you get to get a question answered on tonight's show that actually has to do with Michigan recruiting. And, Kate W just asked a random one. Do you guys like bologna and whipped cream? Now, I don't think anybody likes bologna and whipped cream together. I will say I order coconut milk at Starbucks and they always demand to know if I want whipped cream. And of course I want it, but like coconut milk just tastes better than regular milk. And so, it's usually for lactose intolerant people, but I encourage you to check out coconut milk. And then bologna is just nasty. It's probably a Zach thing. Zach, do you like bologna?
Bologna's garbage.
Oh, good. Look at Zach with a great food opinion. Bologna is garbage.
Whipped cream is garbage.
Whipped cream is garbage? What?
You combine the two. No, that's a no for me, dog.
So you get coffee with no whipped cream, and like you go to like ice cream shops and you're like, stop this whipped cream madness.
Yeah, stop.
Weirdo.
If they put whipped cream in the Starbucks, if I really go there, I take it off. Like I'll take the spoon and just wipe it up into the trash. No, it ruins coffee. It ruins ice cream, milkshakes.
What is wrong with this guy? Okay, so a new question for you is grilled cheese not a sandwich because there's no toppings?
That's a mind-blowing question.
It's between two pieces of bread, though.
That's what I mean.
Like actual bread.
Yeah, that's a sandwich.
It is a sandwich, and you can add toppings. Like when I go to Panera, like I get that with like extra cheese, bacon, and their like secret sauce and stuff. Yeah, you can add all types of stuff. You can put grilled chicken in a grilled cheese. Like you can add all types of stuff to grilled. Zach's mind is still blown. He's like, how can you add toppings to a grilled cheese? We have a super chat from the Pro Wrestling Podcast. That's Zach's wheelhouse. Zach is a big pro wrestling guy. He's never grown up. He still thinks it's real. He still debates and says that Stone Cold Steve Austin is out there actually doing the stunner on people. But he says, am I the biggest Michigan Wolverines fan? And answer is yes. So shout out to you, Pro Wrestling Podcast. I personally do not watch pro wrestling, but Zach is an actual fan, and I'm sure he can check out your podcast for sure. And any other wrestling fans, go check out the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We appreciate your $5 for sure. But yeah, okay. And then also we had one more comment that was kind of mean. It was like, how could EJ afford Switzerland? That place is expensive. Yeah, man, EJ's so poor. He just makes pennies talking about Michigan. He can't get to Switzerland. I wasn't even in like, bad part of Switzerland since, I guess I'm so poor. But I was in Geneva, which was actually extremely expensive, but the water was nice. And, Tyler, the creator, got me intrigued with his album talking about Geneva. So I was like, let's check it out. And then I did go down to Annecy, and that is, yes, one of the best places on earth. But anyway, let's get back to, one last hot dog comment that randomly pulled up on his own was Detroit's own Kowalski hot dogs are the best in the world. You ever had that?
No, maybe. I mean,
I've been to Coney Island in downtown Detroit, and it was good. I mean, I thought it was great. I mean, I still prefer a Chicago dog from Portillo's, but, it was fun.
Well, maybe not Portillo's. That's like the McDonald's of hot dogs.
It's still better than a Detroit hot dog.
I mean, you're not wrong, but like Portillo's compared to like other places.
Well, yeah, I mean, I get a real Chicago hot dog at Fatso's Last Stand. So shout out to Fatso's Last Stand. But, I'm just saying a Portillo's dog is better than any Detroit dog anyway. The Chicago dog is the supreme dog.
It's like saying Little Caesars is better than Detroit pizza. Like it's the same.
No. Detroit pizza is underrated. People got me on board. It's okay. It's good.
It's better than Chicago deep dish. That's for sure.
Get out of here. That's another discussion. Let's get back to Michigan recruiting. Gatlin Bear, top 100 wide receiver out of Idaho. Zach had a 30-minute conversation with Gatlin Bear on the Wolverine.com. Zach, tell us about your talk with Gatlin Bear.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, Gatlin Bear, top 100 wide receiver, number 10 overall in the 2024 recruiting class, number 1 in the state of Idaho. His head coach at Burley Senior, which is a little bit north of the Utah border, actually coached in Loveland, so there's a long history of connections. But Gatlin Bear was obviously a top target for Michigan over the summer, took an official visit in June, ultimately decided to stay home and commit to Boise State later that summer, but due to all the uncertainty behind the Broncos, obviously with the firing of head coach Andy Avalos, it really opened the door and opened a window for Michigan to get back into this race and potentially sign him for the 2026 recruiting class. For those who don't know, he is set to take a mission to Dallas, Texas, for 2 years upon graduation. So he will not count for the 24 class. But last weekend was his second time in Ann Arbor. If you were at the game or were there early, you might have seen Ron Bellamy run out with his family, with Gatlin's family and Gatlin himself. He was one of the first recruits out there for warmups. So getting to see, just such a grand stage, right, of 110,000 people watching a singular game and having so much priority but placed on him and his loved ones. Bellamy has been involved in this recruitment for months, and I think this just really helps seal the deal of just how much effort Michigan's assistant coach is putting into this. But not only meetings with Ron Bellamy, Gatlin and his family got to meet with Jim Harbaugh on Sunday, and that was a very honest conversation. I guess I could just put it best. Discussions with the suspension, with the 3-game suspension, discussions of what's going to happen in the future. Harbaugh was really upfront and honest about just not knowing what's going to happen. Something that obviously Gatlin really appreciated. But yeah, I think that's just what's the storyline, right? Like not knowing what's going to happen and whether or not that could affect him, Gatlin, specifically, and how that would affect him if he would sign with the Wolverines and then ultimately enroll there. That's one of the big question marks that he's going to continue monitoring up until at least December 20th during the early signing period. Whoever Boise State hires as its next head coach is another, but the plan moving forward is obviously just to look and see what happens with programs that are in the mix. Oregon is also involved heavily as well. They brought him in for a visit this fall as well, but I think the next step is just in-home visit, and that's currently being set up by the family and the coaching staff. That should be taking place pretty soon. No more visits. That's what Gatlin mentioned. I think he mentioned that he has seen everything that each school has to offer, including Michigan. He spent 3 days on campus for that official in the summer. Met with the strength and conditioning coach Ben Herbert, got to see the campus, kind of find similarities between his hometown of Burley and how Ann Arbor is. And then, obviously the biggest game of the year, right, at the Big House, he got to see that atmosphere. So looking ahead, if he doesn't sign in December, he could take it into February. He did mention that his mission starts in late February, so he has that window to take it to the late signing period. Just gives him more time to see how things shape up. But in terms of Michigan, they could just kind of pitched him what was pitched in June, just again, a featured role in the offense with his 10.15 100-meter dash speed, being with a supportive crowd. That's one thing that he mentioned, just people who love Michigan football and don't turn on them, right? Like they keep with them till the very end. It kind of reflects on that adversity thing that Michigan kind of showed in the second half of the game after the Zach Sinner injury. The 2024 recruiting class, all those commits who showed up made an effort to introduce themselves, make their own respective pitches to bear, including top 100 quarterback Jaden Davis. I saw them too, just conversing, just having, just meeting each other, feeling each other out, just seeing how everything is. But yeah, it's an all-in effort to land Bear. His speed is Olympic worthy. 10.5 that he ran last season in the spring in the Idaho State Finals was tied for second in the country, I think, across all classes. It's a really if you watch him on Instagram, he's posting a lot of training videos. You can see how he gets in and out of breaks, his hands, his his intelligence with route running. He's just a really, really good wide receiver, and Michigan is making an effort to get him for 2026. We'll see what happens, but I fully expect Michigan to stay in this. We don't know what's going to happen with Boise State, but if it does happen in February, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Definitely. So just to clarify a few comments, David Ruiz is really interested in where I was in Switzerland. I was not in a river. I was in Lake Geneva. That is correct. I was not by a river. I was by a lake. And like I said, the water was clear. And also, Zach, John Schultz says, Zach immediately follows up a good take with a terrible food take. This is a very Zach thing to do. Yes, it is a very Zach thing to do. And also, the Pro Wrestling Podcast says that wrestling is real. So yeah, you guys can go talk about your fake sport together. But anyway, just to add to Gatlin Bear, I'll have more from Gatlin's coach tomorrow, who I know very well from covering Colston Loveland's recruitment and going out to Idaho and seeing Loveland, obviously, when he was a prospect. He had a lot of great things to say about Michigan and joined Gatlin on the trip. Gatlin actually had a chance to hang out with Colston for a little bit after the game, before the game as well. Andrew Gentry met up with Gatlin on Sunday. And like I said, with Pickett, only a select few guys had a chance to stay on Sunday, and Bear was one of them. So they got a chance to meet with Jim Harbaugh as well. So I think the Sunday part was very key for Bear. And, I feel like I brought up Andrew Gentry and just expected everybody to know, but Andrew Gentry obviously also went on a mission, so that connection can certainly help. And then, just to clarify a few things, Bear is a Mission kid. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with Mission kids or how the Andrew Gentry recruitment played out, like Zach said, Bear can really decide at any time, whether it's December or the All-American Bowl or February. But he doesn't really have to sign his national letter of intent until 2026. He basically signs like a non-binding document. 2026 is really when he can enroll at the school of his choice. He's already set to go on his mission to Dallas. So no, there's no way that he wouldn't, that he would forgo the mission to play college football immediately. He is definitely going on his mission. So no chance that he doesn't go on his mission. And then, the other thing is, he is still committed to Boise State. I feel like we're talking about him as an uncommitted recruit. He's still committed to Boise State, though I don't expect that to last very long. And, if he does back out of his pledge to Boise State, I think the only two schools that are really going to be in the mix for Bear are going to be Michigan and Oregon, barring someone coming out of nowhere. But I think it's going to be a Michigan-Oregon battle to the final whistle. So that's about it on Bears recruitment. I'll have more from Bears coach tomorrow. Zach had a great in-depth interview today. So if you feel like you're missing out on things, now's a great time to subscribe to thewolverine.com. We are having a silly season sale. Man, who wrote silly season? Like, that literally sounds like some cringe Notre Dame slogan. We need a better slogan. But anyway, Michigan fans, you can take advantage of this special deal, $1 for 1 month or 50% off an annual subscription. Join thewolverine.com. This is a limited time offer. It actually ends tonight at midnight. So if you have an extra $1 lying around, then you can go ahead and subscribe to thewolverine.com, where we're just absolutely flooding you with great content from this massive Michigan recruiting report. What you get on this podcast is just a taste of Zach's hot dog takes. You can get the full hot dog takes and everything recruiting over at thewolverine.com for $1 for 1 year, 50% off an annual membership. Also, I didn't say it at the top, but make sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have 250 people watching live. 250 people should be liking the video and subscribing. We're only 200 subscribers away from 26,000. So keep helping us grow so we can put together this podcast. And like I said earlier, this is not the question show, even though we've kind of gone off the rails a little bit. But if you do want an actual Michigan question answered, then go ahead and hit that super chat button. That money goes directly to our travel budget. All right, last thing we're going to talk about from the weekend. There's a lot to talk about, man. And so, like I said, make sure to take advantage of that Wolverine.com offer. But last thing we're going to talk about is predictions. And Zach, you were the first one to put in a flip prediction for Marcus Wimberly, who is currently committed to Arkansas in the 2025 recruiting class. Tell us why.
Yeah, Marcus Wimberly, if you don't know, he is a kid who got offered by Michigan safeties coach Jay Harbaugh in June. They have had built a strong relationship ever since. Jay actually made a comment once to Marcus's head coach that Marcus is one of, if not the best safety in the 2025 recruiting class. Now, I have said this on the Fort message board, which can be seen on the Wolverine.com. I have implored people to watch Marcus's film. He is the definition of a fear tackler, a missile, a headhunter, just whatever adjective you want to describe him as a tackler. He is that 6'2", 180 pounds. He is a 3-star, but he plays like a low 4-star at worst. Has really good times on the 40. I think he's run a 4.4. Plays both sides of the ball, just a really good player. But yeah, his first visit to Michigan was this weekend. He committed to Arkansas this past July, actually a day before his scheduled visit to Michigan for the annual barbecue. But communication obviously hasn't wavered between Marcus and his family and Jay. In fact, it's probably picked up a ton. Marcus made a comment to me during our interview that, Jay made sure to go see them as opposed to his family right after the game. I think the priority field that I think, Mark and his family have felt on campus was real. It was genuine and it was authentic. And, Jay Harbaugh is one of the best recruiters, I think you mentioned this once in your article, just a recruiter to find kids in areas that are just not really hotbeds. He found Gatlin Bear. He's going after Marcus Wimberly. It's just, he's a really good recruiter in terms of just building genuine relationships. And obviously it's well received, but Marcus and his dad actually drove the 13 hours from Metro Little Rock to Ann Arbor. And if you want to look at that up on the map, that's 13 hours across 7 states. They drove all the way up on Friday, and then they immediately went home on Saturday. That kind of commitment to just watch a game and to be in Ann Arbor, I think that shows a lot that there's a lot of interest in Michigan. And he's obviously still committed to Arkansas, but, they finished 4-8. There's uncertainty with the coaching staff. There's just turmoil. The obviously to Arkansas is home. You get to represent the home state, but big pitch for Michigan for any of these kids is just, this is home away from home. And that's what they mentioned to Marcus. We're going to make sure that how you feel in Ann Arbor is exactly how you feel in Buckside, Arkansas. Your parents won't have to worry. You won't have to worry. Like you'll be away from home, but not really. He mentioned he wants to go back again, but with his mother, so she can see for herself what everything that he and his dad saw. But, for a kid like him with the measurables and just how he plays with physicality and watching, Rob Morris get his game sealing interception in the fourth quarter, I think that says a lot. I'm confident, at some point, Michigan can do this, can get a flip from him. I think he'd be the first kid from Arkansas who's gone to Michigan since Ryan Mallett. And that's 15 years. So again, this is done by Jay Harbaugh. This is his project, to get a kid with, as I mentioned, just a really, really good football player to be in that system. And I think a game day visit was just the start of what could come.
James Humperhard says, okay. No, I'll tell you why I'm laughing after this show. I'm surprised Zach isn't eating Little Caesars right now. Well, Zach, I think you did celebrate the Michigan victory with Little Caesars. By the way, for those of you that are new to the show, Zach once called Little Caesars the best pizza you can find in Detroit. So I don't even think it's the best pizza you can find in Arkansas. But anyway, let's talk about a couple of other people got why I was laughing. No, I gotta. I put in a couple of predictions. I put in one for Jalen Williams, 4-star edge out of Chicagoland. He's actually listed as a defensive lineman on 3. But Michigan likes him as a bigger edge, kind of in the same mold as a Mike Morris or an Aiden Hutchinson. So yeah, I really, really like Williams. I had a chance to see him play this fall when I made a swing through Chicagoland, and it was great to get an opportunity to really evaluate him on film. He pops out, but in game, he's even more impressive. I mean, the size is real. He's a legit 6'6", 280. He's filled out really well, plays really aggressive, has a knack for getting to the quarterback, really good speed for his size as well. On 3 recently dropped him in the rankings, and I don't really understand why everybody else has him as a top 300 recruit, with 2 sites having him as a top 200 recruit. And I also have him graded as a top 200 recruit. Michigan knocked it out of the park this weekend. I think Wisconsin's still really high on his list. There's some out of region schools that have his attention, like Tennessee and Florida State. But I really like where Michigan stands coming out of this trip. I think Mike Elston's done a really nice job. Sharon Moore has ties throughout Chicagoland, and Stafford Dylan Roney has been fantastic as at recruiting pass rushers. So yeah, I really like where Michigan stands coming out of that visit for Jalen Williams. And I know he doesn't have like a lot of buzz and excitement, but I'm saying you should get excited for Jalen Williams. He's really one of my favorite edge prospects for next cycle. And yes, Kevin Hall, he did pass the EJ hype test. He towered over me. He's an impressive looking dude. Next prediction I put in was for Eli Owens, 3-star tight end out of Tennessee. Now, Eli's a really intriguing prospect. He's not your usual, Colston Loveland, Brady Prescorn, Hogan Hansen type of tight end. He's more of an H-back. He's a shorter tight end at 6'2", 230 pounds. Now, I haven't seen Eli play in a real game, but I did get a chance to see him play in 7-on-7. And I think he would fill in the role that's currently filled by Max Bredesen. I think he can be a little bit of a fullback. I think he can be, that H-back type. I think he can be a true tight end. I think he offers a little bit more as a receiving threat. I was pretty impressed with him as a receiver, especially with, his less than ideal build for a natural tight end. I was pretty impressed with his ability as a receiver in 7-on-7. He is a very willing blocker. I mean, if you think about like the 49ers, right, the way they use like Kyle Juszczyk, I think that you could use an Eli Owens kind of like that. And, obviously growing up a Niners fan, I watched Harbaugh and the way he used the fullback throughout his time in the NFL. And I think that Eli Owens could kind of fit that, or, like I said, just fit what Bredesen is doing right now. But so he's not going to be a Colston Loveland. He's not going to be a Brady Prescorn or, guys they've recruited like that in the past, Deacon Tonielli. Like they've been recruiting really, tall tight ends that are, more split guys that can line up in line. And I think Eli Owens is something different and something that Grant Newsome is really looking for in the class. So I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan takes 3 tight ends next cycle if it's the right combo of guys and you just consider Eli Owens more of an athlete. And then the last kid we're going to talk about is Avery Gatch, because Zach and I didn't put predictions in together. So we will talk about that. But before we do, we actually have a message from another sponsor, and this is going to be our last topic tonight. So if you do have a super chat, click that donate button. But our last sponsor tonight is Barry Gallagher. He's written a book, Lloyd Carr's Michigan Football Journey. Millions of Michigan Wolverine football fans loved Coach Lloyd H. Carr Jr. almost as much as he loved the University of Michigan. This insightful book details how an interim coach stepped up for the Michigan Wolverines and won his way into the College Football Hall of Fame. Lloyd Carr's Michigan Football Journey tells a complete story of Coach Lloyd Carr's 28-year journey, 15 years as an assistant and 13 years as a head coach to bring Michigan back to national prominence and how he kept it there. This book gives you a comprehensive look at the amazing career of Lloyd Henry Carr Jr. It is full of original research, charts, and tables that clearly illustrate and talk about why Coach Carr became a college football coaching legend. Rich Hewlett, one of Carr's first players at Michigan, wrote a heartfelt foreword that sets the tone for a closer look at one of college football's greatest coaches. Order your copy today at Amazon or at mden.com. So shout out to Barry Gallagher for writing that great book on Lloyd Carr. And man, every time I read that ad, though, I think about Cole Cabana signing CJ Carr's face and I laugh. So no offense to Lloyd Carr. But anyway, let's go ahead and talk about Avery Gatch on 300 offensive lineman. In-state kid. Yeah, man. I mean, Zach, you are holding off on a prediction. Now, I put in a prediction for Gatch, even though I don't know him that well. Zach's been on top of this recruitment. I put in a prediction based on the buzz I heard coming out of this weekend. I think Michigan has the clear lead here. And I think, Zach, you would agree that Michigan also leads coming out of this visit. I mean, he visited multiple times this fall. But tell us why you are not on board with a prediction just yet.
Look, I mean, you're right? 3 game day visits this year alone. He's 45 minutes away from campus. The business school is something that's really impressed the family off the field. Harbaugh is involved a lot. Sharon Moore is increasing communication while, dividing time as the acting head coach. But, I'm not going to base this visit off of what, how his recruitment has kind of looked like this fall. Georgia, USC, Penn State, more SEC schools, Wisconsin. There's a lot of schools that are making Avery Gash like their number 1 offensive line target in 2025. Now, he's not ranked in the top 10 on any of the media recruiting services, but this is just a kid who is really good in game, but just doesn't go to camps. So that kind of exposure you have to see him in game to really fully recognize what kind of person he is on the field. And this is a kid who just understands technique, loves run blocking, finishes his blocks, and he's just mean, right? Like it's a prototypical Big Ten Michigan offensive lineman. And obviously Michigan knows that, and they can't let him leave the state. Letting him see Michigan beat Ohio State in the way that they did was big. But, I think this is going to be a recruitment that's going to keep progressing way beyond the spring into the summer. There's going to be official visits taken. There's going to be more visits elsewhere, undergoing. So I want to see how it plays out. But I think having him on 3 game day visits is big. And I think Sharon Moore's efforts to build a relationship over the phone and in person is huge as well. So I just want to see what happens. But I do agree that the 3 game day visits made a difference. You are on mute.
Thank you, Zach, for your assistance. I was saying that I don't think we've seen any commitments coming out of such a massive recruiting weekend because, there's still a little bit of uncertainty around the program. And, you kind of alluded to that when you were talking about Gatlin. I think some of the recruits have mentioned it as well. So, I definitely understand kind of holding off on predictions until things kind of get sorted. And, some of these guys have a little bit, some of these guys have a little bit more clarity. Now, I did forget that I also put in a prediction for on 300 cornerback Alex Graham out of IMG Academy. Zach has actually had his prediction in for Graham since like last year. His mother attended Michigan. He's originally from Detroit, and he was back on campus this weekend and had another great time at Michigan. I think Steve Klinskell's been doing really, really well in this recruitment. And, you know, if they're able to land Graham and pair him with Chris Ewald and potentially DJ Pickett, I mean, that's a hellacious secondary. And not even factoring in Marcus Wimberly too. So, you know, I think Michigan has the lead for Alex Graham. I don't think he'd mind coming back home to play his college ball. Like I said, he's pretty much a legacy with his mom having attended Michigan. So yeah, I definitely like where Michigan's trending there. You know, like I said, and John agrees here. If Michigan gets Graham, Ewald, and Pickett, it would definitely be insane. AM with an interesting comment here. He says DJ seemed like he was leaning Florida till they fired some coaches now. Don't think he wants the cold. DJ has been to Michigan more than me. Like his entire family basically lives there. He knows how cold it is. Like his brother, his older brother, actually, if you read my story on thewolverine.com, which again, $1 for 1 month or 50% off your annual subscription. If you read my story, his older brother actually played at Eastern Michigan. So like the cold's not going to be a factor. This is a family that's basically a Michigan family living in Florida. So yeah, and last thing before we get out of here, Zach, an interesting comment posed here by The New Life. And he says, if it's on a single bun rather than on bread, it's not a sandwich.
Devil's advocate. What if you take some Wonder Bread and roll it? Yeah, like your childhood, you know, you
man. You know, I don't know. You have the new age opened face sandwiches where they give you like a bun and a burger, and then they don't put the other bun on top.
That's a torta.
That's a what?
It's like, what is that? That's a Mexican dish. It's a torta, right?
No, man. What? Yes, a torta exists. Yeah, a tostada.
Thank you. Tostada.
Yeah, a tostada. You have it's basically like, you know, a hard corn shell, and you have some refried beans and some meat, some cheese, and the toppings, right? Yeah, you could consider that an open face sandwich, I guess. I don't even know if we want to get into tacos, like our taco sandwiches, like kind of the same concept as a hot dog. But anyway, no, I'm talking about like if you go to a restaurant right now, like if you go and you look up on your phone, like New American Restaurant, they'll have like an open face sandwich. And it's literally like a cheeseburger, except without the top bun. And they call it open face sandwich. And it's just a cheeseburger.
I think that's a thing. Like
it is a thing.
No, like that's like a thing for a while. Like
no, it's been a thing for a while. I'm not saying like it's the new wave. I'm saying it's part of the new American cuisine, however they title those restaurants where you can find these open face sandwiches.
Like where?
Type in New American Cuisine into Google, and then it'll show up. Zach's like, this is unheard of. I only go to Waffle House.
Well, Waffle House, Little Caesars, like they don't do that. I mean, wait, you can put a waffle with some bacon and eggs without a waffle on top. That's your open face sandwich.
Someone says it's called a loose hamburger. I thought a loose hamburger was a sloppy Joe. That's not what it's called. That is what it's called, right? A sloppy Joe is a loose hamburger.
Sloppy Joe
is not an open face sandwich.
Sloppy Joe's, there's a sauce to Sloppy Joe, I think. Like
no, there is. I love Sloppy Joes, but I'm saying that is what a loose hamburger is called. It's called a Sloppy Joe. You know, it's an open face sandwich is not a loose hamburger, right?
There's a thing called loose meat sandwiches,
which is the Sloppy Joe. Zach's like on Google. No, it's not.
It's according to the Google machine. It's in the same category of messy, but it's not in the same. It's not considered a sloppy Joe.
Okay, so it's basically the sloppy Joe's cousin, I suppose. Like, okay, so then the pro wrestling podcast says, is an ice cream sandwich a sandwich?
Well, yeah, it's got the name.
Yes, but it doesn't have any meat. It's just ice cream. So is an ice cream like, you know, if I get an ice cream cone and I put a scoop of ice cream and I get another cone and I put it together, is that a sandwich?
No, that's just ridiculous. Why would you do that?
Okay. And he also says, what about an unwich? Isn't that like a vegetarian thing, like where it's just like lettuce and stuff? Get that out of here, man.
No, that's pretty good. It's pretty good.
No. Oh my God. If you eat an unwich, just leave this podcast. Get out of here. Nobody wants an unwich.
It's healthier. It's more lettuce. It's pretty good.
Out of here with that. Get this guy out of here, man.
Go to Jimmy John's tomorrow and order the
I don't want to go to Jimmy John's and pay $13 for an unwich. It doesn't even have bread.
But you don't need the bread. You got good head of lettuce. It's really good, man. I'm telling you.
Gerald McKinley is stating that a loose hamburger is different from a sloppy Joe. I guess I will have to look up what a loose hamburger is, because I've never heard of that thing in my life other than referring to a sloppy Joe as a loose hamburger. So I have the Pro Wrestling Podcast says he will be eating an unwich tomorrow while he watches his fake sports. I think that's all the sandwich comments we got. Oh no, John A. Schultz, going back to the Mexican dishes, is a quesadilla a sandwich?
No.
I mean, are you considering tortilla? I mean, I guess you consider tortillas bread, right? Like, I mean, they're in the bread section, like on the food pyramid.
Well, tortillas have flour, right? Like,
yeah,
bread doesn't have flour.
Well, you can get corn tortillas too.
That's what I mean. Like,
well, yeah, they're different from bread. Yeah, sure.
Does bread have flour in it?
I don't know. I'm not a bread maker.
Because tortillas have flour tortillas.
I would assume that bread does have flour in it, right? Google that. Does bread have flour? God, we sound like idiots. Does bread have flour? Does anybody know? Does anybody make bread? John A. Schultz says that it does have flour. Yeah, I mean, I assume if you bake anything, most of the time it has flour, right?
Like baking soda.
Okay, so tortillas have flour and bread has flour. So then you can't use that as your argument.
That's true. Like, maybe it's the way it's cut. Like, quesadillas are like a triangle. So that's not really sandwich like.
But dude, if you get what are those things called? If you get like a club sandwich, like they put the little toothpicks with the triangle cut bread.
What are you talking about?
Okay, you're like, okay, quesadillas, they're cut into triangles. If you go into like your local Chili's to put it into something that you would like, if you go into your local Applebee's and you say you want a club sandwich, they'll cut it into triangles and put a toothpick in it.
I've never seen that before in my life.
Good Lord. Okay. Anyway, dude, I'm Mexican and I don't really even know what a torta is.
It's a sandwich. Like it's like a Mexican submarine sandwich. Like it's a taco, but in sandwich form.
I don't even think like my family's ever made tortas. I've had gorditas, I've had quesadillas, I've had tacos, tostadas, tamales, but I've never had a torta. That must be like some Puerto Rican stuff. Get that out of here. I don't want a torta. Anyway, I think that's about it, guys. Yeah, maybe next week we'll talk about soup. We've gone way over time. Our producer's like left. He's like a gray thing. He's just like, screw these guys. Anyway, thanks for joining us. If you actually want Michigan recruiting and more food takes, make sure to subscribe to thewolverine.com. Also, like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel for free. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the Q&A show.